Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, glories to Srila Prabhupada, and welcome everyone to the Wednesday night reading and discussion of Caitanya-caritāmṛta, conducted by the Hare Krishna Society Prabhupada Disciples Association. And before we get started, I wanted to make a comment in terms of our GoFundMe campaign, which, by the grace of the Lord, has been successful. And we have raised the money necessary for the printing of the Srimad Bhagavatam Delhi versions from 1962, 64, and 65. And we want to thank everyone, of course, who donated. I believe we have over 83 people in this group who have saw the importance for their own spiritual progress to give a donation. Because Prabhupada would, and I wrote this recently on the internet, Prabhupada would tell us, don't try to see Krishna. His spiritual master, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, told him that. Don't try to see Krishna, but act in a way that Krishna will see you. And what draws the attention of Krishna? The service of the devotees to the bona fide spiritual master A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. And what better service, of all the services that we're doing every day, cooking prasadam and distributing prasadam and chanting our rounds and worshiping our deities and preaching to others, the topmost service that we can render is to protect Prabhupada's legacy in his original books that are totally unedited and pure in their message of truth for the conditioned souls that are interested in getting out of the entanglement of birth and death. Yes. For those who are really serious about Krishna consciousness, then they take up the service of the spiritual master. Prabhupada, I was listening to a tape the other day. Prabhupada was telling us, and you've heard this, all of you have heard him speak like this, so it's not something you're not familiar with. But he was saying we shouldn't treat the spiritual master as some fad. In California, back in the 70s, gurus were coming from India and people were taking up different processes of yoga for physical fitness and so-called meditation. But Prabhupada said, no, guru should not be taken lightly. Not only the position of the disciple, he was saying, first of all, as a disciple, if you decide that you want to be a disciple of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, you better be serious. Don't think that this is some kind of cheap thing, even in terms of what we are doing these days in accepting disciples on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, or for Srila Prabhupada, I should say. It is not a whimsical thing. We want to see that they're very serious and they are living up to the standard of Jayananda. Of course, that's a high standard. And, hopefully all of us can try to achieve that. But that's the idea, is to have a very high standard of seriousness when you take up Krishna consciousness, because there's a lot of facets to it. It's not just one thing. And people should learn how to conduct themselves as Krishna conscious gentlemen or gentle ladies. First class people. I was sent a message to my godbrother Yaśodā the other day. I said, just see how even the karmi world, they respect old age. It's not a big deal, is it? I mean, it's a logical position for everyone to respect their elders. But even in the ISKCON world, they don't respect others. In fact, we're criticized by a lot of people because we're promoting Prabhupada as the bona fide Acharya in his Vani incarnation. A lot of criticism, a lot of fault-finding, a lot of character assassination, a lot of rumor mongering. And it goes on, whether it's in the material world. And I'm hearing a lot of people saying, this is coming to us from other people. They find association with regular Christian people more endearing than association with a lot of these so-called people in ISKCON or been in ISKCON. They don't have any real etiquette. And this is a reflection, of course, of a bogus guru system. Ever since this initiating guru system came into existence in 1977, right after Prabhupada's departure, people wanted to get on the Vyasasan and collect disciples. And we have direct experience, both myself and Yaśodā, of people saying, we don't need any of you. Harikesh banished all the Prabhupada disciples out of Russia. He didn't care. He didn't want them. Bhavananda said the same thing in Vrindavan. Just get rid of them all. We don't need you. We've got our own disciples. Absolutely pathetic. And a reflection of the state of mind of these people. Profit, adoration, and distinction were motivating them, and they became prakrita sahajias. That's an imposter. Pretending, posing, posturing to be some kind of a great devotee, when in fact, behind closed doors, you're criticizing, you're fault-finding your own guru. And there are lots of examples. We're not going to bring them up tonight, because our goal is to move forward with the discussion. But if you do research on it, and if you want information on these things, call us up. People want to know things. There's lots of information on Google. You just search what this person did, that person. We're not here to try to convince people of that subject. It's already established that the boat has left the harbor. Yes, it's no longer at the dock. It's sailed out, adrift into the material world. And people on the pretense that they are some kind of successful preachers because they sell change books and they build temples, etc., is not a reflection of the real transcendental consciousness that a devotee disciple of Srila Prabhupada maintains throughout their life, like Jayananda did. servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. He who says he is my devotee is not my devotee. But he who is the devotee of my devotee, he is my devotee. And we want to say this. We want to thank the 83, there's more people that are still donating. And by the way, anyone who donates any amount while the program is still on, any of you out there who haven't had a chance to give a donation for the reprinting of the Delhi Bhagavatams of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, if somehow or other you haven't appeared on the list for whatever reason, then I may suggest if you do add your name to the list, we will send you a set of Bhagavatams from our go down after they're printed. Yes, we're not looking at the amount, we're looking at the intent. And your intent is to work cooperatively with the Prabhupada Disciples and with the Hare Krishna Society, where incidentally, the money is being deposited. And I want to thank Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu for his diligent work. Fortunately, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, during his time working, became an expert paralegal and worked at some of the largest, if not one of the largest law firms in America. And now, of course, he's full-time devotee of the mission, again, full-time, 24 hours a day. I know that all of you recognize that. I don't want to embarrass him, but the amount of information that he's providing for others is extremely prolific, extremely prolific. And this is a reflection of his focus, his preparation for the classes, his service to his deities, and on it goes. So we're very fortunate that we have good people with us, extremely good people. And we want to celebrate the teamwork that we're building, the cooperation that we're building. Everybody knows, even in sports, if you have a dissenter within a group, you have to deal with it. Now, we're not going to deal with it by banishing someone. Of course, if they're offensive, what can you do? But dialogue is really our solution. And we constantly invite people who disagree with us, please call us up. We'll discuss it with you. We'll try to understand it with you. And in this way, we'll build a solid group of devotees to carry this mission forward. And our plan is to continue, everyone, to publish Prabhupada's books in their original unedited forms. Nectar of Devotion, TLC, Prayers of Queen Kunti. We're going to do Easy Journey to Other Planets, Sri Upanishad, which is part of this first campaign. And then, like that, move forward and take a role as protectors of the legacy in the unedited books of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda Ki Jai. So we're going to go to the diaries now. I think it's important for us to look at it. I was looking at the pages of the diaries, and I think we'd like to redo the diary, some of the editing of the diary, since a lot of it was based with some other godbrothers who are motivated or whatever. But go ahead, Venkat, have you got it? Yeah. Now these are I wanted to show you look at this. Now I took business administration at college and accounting and things like that before I went to university. And it's interesting to note how Prabhupada's doing a balance sheet here. So it shows income and expenses and balance, and he goes down a reconciliation in a sense. It's a simple reconciliation, but look at that, and just see, everybody, how he's tracking every penny. So like he's got, just look at the expenses on that first column, 50 cents, 30 cents, 40 cents, $1.15. There's a $50 expenditure, 60 cents, 30 cents, $1.30. What is this telling you, everyone? What is this telling you? That Prabhupada did not waste one penny of Krishna's money. And here he is proving it in his diary. Not a penny. Just like rice, a grain of rice. I know I try to follow some of the, in some way, Prabhupada's great example. Not one grain of rice. So if a grain of rice falls while I'm washing it, I pick it up. We don't waste one grain of rice. We don't waste, Vijay Pandit, one penny. We keep track, just like our Guru did, in terms of everything. Why? Because everything that he had was used in the service of Krishna. Here's the other note that you should be aware of. Also, Prabhupada was protecting the Lakshmi because he was spending every penny in Krishna's service and nothing for himself. Very interesting. If you look at the expenditure list, do you see his name anywhere there? No. Prabhupada was not interested in personal accumulation of wealth. And he told us, and all of you know this, whenever you get some money, spend it all in Krishna's service. That was his position. And then Krishna will provide more, like that. And in this way, Lakshmi could circulate. And here, in these pages of his diaries, you can see it if you can read into the meaning of the inserts of debits and credits and a balance sheet. So let's move forward there, Venkat Prabhu. Just show them. Look at that. And these are, look at all those beautiful pictures. And consistent, eh? It makes you cry almost to see Prabhupada's commitment. And here we have, look at this. This is the early days. I'm just going to show the pictures. Look at that. There's Brahmananda, his beautiful face. You know, I had the blessing of him coming here to my house. This is how I got these books, by the way, in '93. He came here with his brother Gargamuni. They stayed here in Hamilton at our ashram for 2 days and preached with us and led kirtan. And we had an honor to serve him and his brother Gargamuni, prasadam for both days. And there he is at the front, very, very blissful, very serious man, and a real credit to our movement, all the different devotees there. And look, we'll move forward over to the next page. Look at that picture. And look at Prabhupada there. There's Brahmananda again, right beside Prabhupada. And you can see how gradually the movement was starting to spread back then. What a great time, eh, Vijaya Pandit? What an exciting time in history that Prabhupada was being blessed by Krishna. Keep going. Venkat Prabhu, the next pictures. Look at that face. Very so serious and pure. Someone's got their microphone. Please turn it off. Thank you. And we go to the matchless gifts photo. Thank you. And look at that. All the devotees there going in and out of the store. And let's see, who is that? My eyes aren't that good, so it's hard for me to see the film on the page. But look at how nice it is, eh? Look at how beautiful everyone is. Maybe that's newer. This could be a newer photo because I see a Balaram Mridanga in there. You know, so it's got to be. And go forward to the next photos. Here we are at Brooklyn Bridge performing Harinam, devotees out in Sankirtan. And here that shows that they somehow or other resumed the classes at the store front. And like that. Oh, and here's a letter. Let's read quickly the letter. Next up, from a letter to Sally Agrawal, who was the first person, her and her husband, to accommodate him. My dear daughter Sally, I'm so glad to receive your very affectionate letter of the 3rd instant and have noted the contents carefully. Yes, I've got the nice typewriter by the grace of the Lord, and I'm very much satisfied with it. It's working. It's not a computer. It was just a regular old typewriter. Before receiving your letter under reply, I've sent 2 letters, both to you and Gopal. I understand that you have received them. In one of them, I have requested Gopal to dispatch 25 sets of books to the Paragon Book Gallery, and I'm anxious to know if the books are already dispatched. Regarding your reminder of my good cooking, I'm very much thankful to you, and next time when I shall go to your home, I must serve you with good lunches without fail. Now I am far away from you, otherwise I would have at once gone to you and entertain you with such lunches. I am anxious to learn about the health of you all, specifically of your children. How is your naughty daughter, Kamla? Please offer them my love and blessings, and so also accept both of you. Please write me occasionally, and as Gopal is not accustomed to reply promptly, I shall henceforward write to you. Did you meet your good father and mother in the meantime? If you meet them, please offer my respectful regards. Both your father and mother are good souls, and therefore you are a good daughter of your parents. I remember all of you always. What a perfect gentleman Srila Prabhupada was. Perfect person. Please offer my good wishes to your friends who still remember me. I shall meet them again when I go to Butler. I like Butler more than New York, and especially the quarters. I like Butler, excuse me. I like Butler more than the New York, and especially the quarters in which your home is situated. Had I had the means to rent a house independently, I would have gone back again to Butler and hold my Bhagavatam discourses daily with good friends. As far as I have studied the American minds, they are eager and apt to receive bhakti cult of Srimad Bhagavatam because the Christian religion is based on the same principle. My mission is not to turn away anyone from the affiliation of a particular religion, but I want to let them know more knowledge about God and devotion, especially, as you all know, in his publication of the Srimad Bhagavatam Delhi editions. Dr. Ramurti Mishra is also a very kind gentleman, and I'm living very comfortably at his care. He is keen after looking my all kinds of comforts. I am negotiating with some booksellers and publishers, and I hope I shall be able to settle something before I leave for the next station. I shall be New York still for a few days more, and I shall let you know when I leave the station. I'm so grateful to your kindness, and surely I ask if you need anything. I have left my hearth and home in India, but here, by the grace of the Lord, I've got good sons and daughters like you, so I do not feel any foreign complexion. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Let's move forward with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava, and then the reading and discussion with Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu up in the sunny mountains of Twain Heart. Haribol. I don't know if it's sunny.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Yaśodā-nandana Brajana Ranjana. Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Muspat Paramahansa Parivrajagācārya Sattvareśvara Samāda Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupāda ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai Nāmācārya Śrī Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Śrīvāsādhi Gaur Bhaktamani ki Jai Sri Radha Krishna Mokh Gopinath Sam Khanda Radha Khanda Giridhar ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Navadvip Dham ki Jai Ganga Mai ki Jai, Jamuna Mai ki Jai, Guru Dwarka Dham ki Jai, Swami Bhaktivedanta ki Jai, all glories to the Assembly. All glories to the Assembly. Thank you very much.
All glories to you, Srila Prabhupada. Glories to you, Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Narayanam namaskritya. Narayanam namaskritya. Naram cheva narottamam. Naram cheva narottamam. Devim saraswatim vyasam. Devim saraswatim vyasam. Tato jayam mudirayet. Tato jayam mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead, Narayana, 2, to the Nara-Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. Before we read a few verses from the chapter 1 of the Adi Lila of Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Just want to point out that today, according to the Mayapur calendar, is the appearance day of Lord Narasimha. It is Narasimha Chaturdasi. And yesterday was the disappearance day of Sri Jayananda Prabhu, whom Srila Prabhupada confirmed was a completely pure realized soul and a pure devotee who went back to Godhead. Because several times devotees have asked the question, and I know that Vishwakarma Prabhu and other devotees have come across this inquiry from various devotees. Are there any examples of disciples of Prabhupada during his lifetime that Prabhupada confirmed went back to Godhead? Because Srila Prabhupada talks in many philosophical terms in his books and purports and conversations about the process of bhakti, how people who practice the process and chant Hare Krishna or hear the name of Krishna at the time of death go back to Godhead. If one remembers the activities of Lord Krishna or his name or his form at the time of death, according to Bhagavad Gita, one goes back to Krishna. So the question is sometimes raised, do we have examples? And as far as my insignificant knowledge, there are two examples. One is Jayananda Prabhu. Another one was Sudama Prabhu, also known as Sudama Maharaj. The story of Sudama Maharaj is basically in 1970 in Los Angeles. Srila Prabhupada was looking for somebody to volunteer to go to Japan to start the movement, to take the temple in Tokyo and carry on some kirtan activities in Tokyo, Japan. So he requested one of his personal servants to go there and do that. And the personal servant basically told Srila Prabhupada, "Oh, Prabhupada, I'm very attached to staying with you, to serving you here. I would rather stay here with you." Oh, Prabhupada said, "That is all right. That is very nice of you." But when Sudama heard that, he went to Srila Prabhupada and says, "I'll go to Japan. I'll go take care of preaching." So he went there. He wanted to go there with his wife. Somebody, Vinayak Sharma, pointed out in 1969 when Sudama came to Tokyo, Japan for the first time. Okay, let's correct the date. Basically, Srila Prabhupada in Los Angeles had a conversation before Sudama was getting ready to go to the Los Angeles International Airport to fly to Japan. Prabhupada had a conversation with him. Please remember, I got this story directly from Sudama himself in 1994. Before he departed his body, he stayed with me in Badger, California for a few months. So Sudama related the story of how Srila Prabhupada called him, and Prabhupada personally embraced them, which is quite unique. Prabhupada didn't just embrace devotees. Most devotees paid their obeisance to Prabhupada or touch his feet. Prabhupada embraced Sudama and told him, "For you to volunteer to go to Japan to start this movement, at the time of your death, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself will come to you, take you back to Godhead." So this is a very special benediction from Srila Prabhupada. Now, we know Sudama had many years after Prabhupada departed where he was somewhat inactive in devotional service. He related to me that for many years he felt discouraged of what took place in 1977 and 78. But he told me that he always kept worshiping Srila Prabhupada, always, every single day. He kept his chanting, but he ran into some personal issues. But at the end, he came back to Krishna, and at the end, he was hearing the Maha Mantra. He had Ganges water on his head, Tulsi garland. I mean, he got some special mercy somewhere rather the benediction of Srila Prabhupada. In the case of Jayananda Prabhu, I've related that story, and I'll relate it again briefly so we can go on with our reading, is that Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan at the Krishna Balaram temple in his room having a discussion with O.B.L. Kapoor. O.B.L. Kapoor was a senior disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and a very accomplished scholar in Sanskrit and Bengali. And he taught at the Banaras Hindu University and other educational institutions in India. He was very learned Vaishnava. And every time Srila Prabhupada would come to Vrindavan, OBL Kapoor would be right there talking to Prabhupada. They would talk in Hindi, sometimes in English, with plenty of Sanskrit references and Bengali references. It was quite an amazing experience to witness the interaction of Srila Prabhupada with OBL Kapoor. Very sweet. So on this day in May, after Srila Prabhupada had received a letter that Jayananda had departed his body in Los Angeles, California, at the temple there, the ISKCON temple in Los Angeles, what happened is that Srila Prabhupada was relating the story to OBL Kapoor about Jayananda's life, how he had started the Ratha Yatra in 1967 in San Francisco, how he had donated $5,000 for the publication of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. He used to drive a taxi, come back at night and do all kinds of services, eventually move full-time into the temple. And everybody who had interaction with Jayananda knew this person was a special devotee. He was so dedicated, so surrendered. And Jayananda was very imposing physically, almost 6'3", 6'4". He was he was buffed and jacked, and he could do some amazing activities. So Srila Prabhupada was relating the brief activities of Jayananda and how he had departed his body while hearing the Mahamantra and basically glorifying Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada started to quote that verse from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text number 9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyakvadeham punarjanma naiti mam iti so Arjuna. That for one who remembers Krishna, Krishna says, one who remembers my activity, my transcendental activities at the time of death, he comes back, doesn't have to come back to this material world. And Prabhupada started to cry describing that verse. He was just so happy to hear of the very auspicious circumstances of Jayananda Prabhu. So these are the two devotees who got that special benediction. But anyone, doesn't matter if one met Prabhupada physically or not, anybody can receive that benediction from Prabhupada if we simply follow his instructions. We've often discussed this many times, of how Prabhupada is still available today, much to the contrary of sentimental persons with poor fund of knowledge who prefer to emphasize their vapu over Srila Prabhupada's vani and over Srila Prabhupada's person. Most of you are familiar with this letter from Srila Prabhupada to one devotee in 1969 when he asked whether or not the spiritual master would remain in the universe as long as all of his disciples are still here. Prabhupada said, yes, the spiritual master will stay here until all of his disciples are delivered. So there are some very, very different levels of understanding and realization. And it's up to us to take advantage of days like this, the disappearance day of Srila Jayananda Prabhu, and the appearance day of Lord Narasimha. Everybody knows the transcendental pastimes of Lord Narasimha with Prahlad Maharaj, his killing of Hiranyakashipu, and there are so many wonderful, wonderful pastimes. I just want to relate one thing. During the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, because this deity of Lord Narasimha in Ahobilam, in Andhra Pradesh, South India, is very special. It is called a Swayam Vyakta, self-manifested deity of Lord Narasimha. And in 1975, we had the opportunity to visit there with one devotee from Australia named Ugrasrava Prabhu. Ugrasrava used to be Prabhupada's personal chauffeur and assistant whenever Srila Prabhupada came to Australia. Prabhupada had great fondness for this devotee, great fondness. And this devotee, we went there with him, and we had to, because you have to go up in the mountains. We have to go up in the mountains and walk for some time. And this deity of Lord Narasimha is in a cave in Ahobilam. And he has a garland of shaligrams, and it's been worshipped for a long time. So when Lord, in the Padma Purana, there's a reference to different prayers that were composed by Lord Ramachandra himself in honor of Lord Narasimha when he visited Ahobilam, that wonderful deity. So Rugashrava whispered to me, it says, maybe we can try to get a picture, because in India, in some of these temples, they don't allow you to use a photograph or a camera. And this Brahmin was pretty old, and he was wearing rimmed glasses. And I said, well, here's 200 rupees. I'll give it to him and see what you can do. I'll keep him busy. So he went, and basically we gave him 200 rupee donation for the service of the deity. And the Brahmin was very happy. And he turned around, and Ugrashrava took 2 or 3 pictures. I have those pictures today. I did a special worship this morning. So this was a very blissful, special experience there. For those of you who do not know the history, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited Ahobilam. Ramanujacharya visited Ahobilam. Madhvacharya visited Ahobilam. And then Vedanta Deshika and all these great acharyas visited Ahobilam. So this place is very special. It is an amazing place. Even Lord Ramachandra went to pay his respects to Lord Narasimha in Ahobilam. You can go on Google and type Ahobilam, Ahobilam, and there's wonderful stories. According to the Vaishnavas of the Ramanuja Sampradaya, the Sri Vaishnava, they say, according to the Brahmanda Purana, this is where Lord Narasimha appeared when he came to this planet. And this is where he protected Prahlad. This is where he killed Hiranyakashipu on top of the palace, on top of the mountain. There is even a place called Raktakunda. This is the place where Lord Narasimha washed his hands, which were smeared with blood after killing Hiranyakashipu. And if you got the stomach for it, it's like on the side of a cliff, and you basically hang on to the rock and walk all the way there, and you can wash your hands in that place. And if you're lucky, you get a little rock, transcendental rock. All the rocks are red, blood red over there. So there's a lot of very special transcendental pastimes that took place in that place. So today, we just, in remembrance of Lord Narasimha, we're discussing a few of these things. So we will proceed with our reading of a few verses of Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. Please bear in mind, I do not have my cell phone today. Somewhere or other, the cell phone either ran off or was lost or misplaced. So somebody remind me when I get close to 8 o'clock so I don't go on rambling or anything. First, we will recite a few verses from chapter 1 of the Adi Lila. We're starting with text number 18, which describes the glorious and the great benefit of hearing this powerful transcendental literature. Thank you, Venkat Bhatta Prabhu, for displaying this. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Glory to Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda. Glory to Advaita Chandra, and glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. Text 19. Hetina Thakur Gaudiya ke Karya Chena Yatmasat. Hetinera Charana Vandana Tire Morenat. These 3 deities of Vrindavana, Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinatha, have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the lords of my heart. Text number 20. Grante Rarambi Karyamangala Charana Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tinera Smarana. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Text number 21. Tinera smarane vigna vinashana anayase nijavanchita purana. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. Text 22. Simangala charanoi trivida prakar vastu nirdesha shirvada namaskaram. The invocation involved 3 processes: defining the objective, offering benedictions, and offering obeisances. So we will proceed with our reading. All translations, synonyms, purports, and commentaries by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Today we'll be reading from Adi-lila chapter 4, text 230. Okay, chapter 430. Triradayah pranaya mahima kidrishu banayeva asvadyuyenad bhuta madurima kidrishu bamadiyah saukyam chasya madanubhavata kidrisham vetilobhat tadbhavadyah samajani sachigarbha sindhu harindu. Sri Radayah of Srimati Radharani, Pranaya Mahima, the greatness of the love, Kidrishaha, of what kind, Va, or, Anaya, by this one, Radha, Eva, alone, Asvadyaha, to be relished, Yena, by that love, Adbhuta Madhurima, the wonderful sweetness, Kidrishaha, of what kind, Va, or, Madhyaha, of me, Saukyam, the happiness, Cha, and Asyaha, her, Mat Anubhavataha, from realization of my sweetness, Kidrisham, of what kind, Va, or, Iti, thus, Lobhat, from the desire, Tat, her, Baba Adyaha, richly endowed with the emotions, Samajani, took birth, Sachigarbha, of the womb of Sachi Devi, Sindhu, in the ocean, Hari, Lord Krishna, Induhu, like the moon. Translation: desiring to understand the glory of Radharani's love, the wonderful qualities in him that she alone relishes through her love, and the happiness she feels when she realizes the sweetness of his love, the Supreme Lord Hari, richly endowed with her emotions, appears from the womb of Srimati Sachi Devi as the moon appears from the ocean. Text 231. Isaba siddhanta gudha kohite no yuyai, no kahire keoyi haranta nahi pai. This, Saba, all, Siddhanta, conclusions, Gudha, very confidential, Kahite, to speak, Na, not, Yuyaya, quite, fit, Na, not, Kahile, speaking, Keha, anyone, Ihara, of it, Anta, end, Nahi, not, Paya, gets. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. All these conclusions are unfit to disclose in public, but if they're not disclosed, no one will understand them. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Sugurave Namaham Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasme Shri Gurave Namaha Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadati Visheshataha Adadana Strinam Danteridam Yache Punaha Punaha Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhulisyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavatusmyaham Sadadaso asmi sarvatam tat kripa pikshako nityam tat prishta sat karomi svam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today, as we've discussed, this is a very important and very special day. Any day of the appearance of the Lord in his incarnations, Lord Krishna, Radharani, Lord Balaram, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Lord Advaita, the appearance day of Narasimha, the appearance day of Vamanadeva, so many special celebrations. In the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a very important purport where Prabhupada points out that in the spiritual world, in Goloka Vrindavana and Vaikuntha, it is called Akandita Utsava. This is a long Sanskrit word which is broken down, Akandita Utsava. That means there's an unbroken festival of celebration of the transcendental activities and the glories in the name of the personality of Godhead Krishna and Narayana. Now, this is very important because in this material world, we see so much activity is devoted to mundane topics, and people get lost, they get bewildered, they get confused, because this is the topics involving the three modes of material nature, the mode of ignorance, the mode of passion, and the mode of goodness, mostly mode of passion and goodness. In order to break free from the influence of these modes, which binds the living entity, one is to raise his consciousness to the mode of goodness. That's what this Akandita Utsava is all about. So today is a very special day to remind ourselves of the sanctity of this great philosophy. Very, very important point. We cannot forget, we go on with our daily activities. So much activity is going on. There are so many different projects that we all have, so many different things that we do, but we have to remember the activities of the personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Lord Narasimha. So many wonderful activities. Actually, in South India, there is a branch of the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. They're called Vadagalai. They're the followers of Vedanta Disika, called the Ahobilam Mat. This is an entire mat that is dedicated to the worship of Narasimha. Then so many of their acharyas have composed wonderful prayers glorifying Lord Nrsimha, and they have wonderful worship, very elaborate worship of Lord Narasimha. And many of their scholars and pandits, they have recitation of 108 names of Lord Narasimha, 1,008 names of Lord Narasimha, glorification of Lakshmi Narasimha. There are so many, and they have Narasimha Suprabhatam to wake up Lord Narasimha in the morning. So there are literally hundreds of these wonderful prayers that they chant. Many of them are accomplished Sanskrit scholars, and some of these are not easy to learn because of the pronunciation involved, but it's just wonderful. Just like Prabhupada says in the fourth canto, that right now, even today, these four Vaishnava Sampradayas, the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, the Madhva Sampradaya, and the Nimbarka Sampradaya, Vishnu Swami, Vallabhacharya Sampradaya, are still engaged very strictly in devotional service. They don't quit. Nobody quits. Nobody just walks off. The same thing in our Gaudiya Sampradaya. Srila Prabhupada was the foremost representative of all these great acharyas to bring Krishna consciousness, to bring this wonderful process of bhakti to the West so that anyone can take part in this chanting of Hare Krishna, offering bhoga to Lord Krishna, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and engage in actually making progress in spiritual understanding and spiritual life and purify their existence. So that is the purpose of a day like this, of Narasimha Chaturdasi and Sri Jayananda Prabhu Tirobhav. Tirobhav means disappearance day. So Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Times and the understanding that there is a way for all of us to go back home, back to Godhead in this lifetime. Prabhupada was asked that question, Yaśodā-nandana, how long will it take for a person to become Krishna conscious? He goes, in a second. It only takes a matter of understanding and accepting the fact fully that you're the eternal servant of Krishna. And of course, this is the problem that we have because of our conditioning. And you talked about useless conversation. This is the life of the karmi. Especially, well, all throughout the world, but I can relate here in Canada to us being raised here, that it is a culture of prajalpa, of useless conversation. And that is very polluting to the mind of the conditioned soul. So instead of thinking of the Hare Krishna mantra, you might wake up thinking of some kind of useless song from the 50s or 60s or 70s. Or you're thinking about things that you've done in the past. Prabhupada talks about this in a recent lecture I was listening to, of lamentation and hankering, which is the business of the conditioned soul, to always lament what happened in the past and to remember it. Sometimes I associate with friends and their whole conversation. One day I had a phone conversation with a friend of mine. I'm not going to mention a name because he'll stop being my friend, but he was talking to me about the details of his life 40 years ago in specific ways. Everything he's explaining. Well, this happened to me, and after that we got on the bus and we went here, and after we got off the bus we had an ice cream, and after we went have the ice cream we went to this place. So I was listening to him politely. I fell asleep on the phone. Are you there? Are you there, Vishva? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting. He kept talking and talking. I fell asleep again. And then at the end, he goes, oh, thank you for listening. That was such a great conversation. So this kind of thing goes on, that devotees have to certainly tolerate the situation that we're in. And we are surrounded by a lot of frivolity, I say. So we're remaining serious here in our group, which is very valuable. And I always say this to all of us, look, this is only 4.5 hours a week. So if you can take the time to focus on this and not fall asleep, but be engaged in the conversation, hear the sound vibrations that are being transmitted globally to us. It's a great benediction. Think about it. I can remember as a temple president, Anandabhaya, in Toronto. Now, we were doing a lot of things. We had bought this huge building. We were running a $60,000 a month budget to keep it going. And we had 17 vehicles going out on Sankirtan. I had one devotee. He was a full-time mechanic. He was working to keep all the vehicles going. We had set up a foundry for building the gates that Murli Krishna was a metal, Yashoda Prabhu. We had set up a foundry for doing these metal gates for the front doors of the Didi house we built inside the big hall there. It's a 25,000 square foot building in downtown Toronto that Prabhupada arranged for us to purchase for him. So many things go on, but as long as we're dovetailing our energy, our time in the service of Krishna, we transcend the material world through that service. It is through the service to the spiritual master that we can overcome these problems of lamenting and hankering about the material life that we're in. And these are the things we should remember. It was so nice today to see these pictures. And I mentioned to Vijaya Pandit, oh, look at these pictures of all the devotees sitting in front of matchless gifts and the bliss that was up. It brings us back in time to when Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, we were in the mission with everyone. I have a beautiful picture that I post up on Facebook of myself by chance. It wasn't really, it certainly wasn't a plan. I know what was happening. Prabhupada was leaving the temple room in Mayapur, and I was standing at the side, and I got pushed over to the edge. And so I'm standing there, and Yaśoda ends up right in front of me. And then right in front of him is Brahmananda, and right beside Brahmananda is Srila Prabhupada. Captured in time. I sent the picture to Nimai Pandit, our friend who has these projects in America, and he goes, "You people are the most blessed people in creation." Well, thank you very much. I mean, we certainly feel fallen as devotees and very unqualified, but somehow or other, if we can get the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we get the enthusiasm to serve him, to study his books, to chant our rounds, to follow the principles. Like Prabhupada was saying here, I saw a comment that one of the devotees was saying that Kirtananda, Prabhupada said he would take him back to Godhead. Yes, it's possible. It's possible that could happen. Excuse me, sorry about that. So it's possible that could happen, but the fact of the matter is, the relationship between the spiritual master and the devotee is only established when you're following strictly his instructions. There is a prerequisite for qualification. You have to follow. Otherwise, how can one claim to be disciple? You can claim it. There can be statements said, but if you deviate, if you offend, if you commit errors, then your relationship with your spiritual master is severed because of your offenses. That is very clear in terms of the way Prabhupada taught other people. You have to practice what you're doing. This is not an automatic ticket back to Godhead. So useless talk, useless conversations, prajalpa of the past, all the problems that we're facing. If we can dovetail ourselves constantly in the mission of Lord Chaitanya and Srila Prabhupada, this will keep us free from these problems and make us happy in this life. Just one last point, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. Prabhupada was saying in a lecture, enjoyment does not mean happiness. In other words, people go out, they enjoy. Oh, I went here, I went there, I saw this, I had this, I did this, I was... One who is not in transcendental consciousness can have neither a peaceful mind or steady intelligence, without which there's no possibility of peace. And how can there be any peace without that. There is not. So happiness comes. How can there be any happiness without that? So happiness comes from the transcendental platform of devotional service in the mood of Jayananda Prabhu. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, please.
Very important points that you're raising here. Very important points. In July of 1970 in Los Angeles, Srila Prabhupada introduced the Namaste Narasimhaya prayers. I mean, there was a very interesting incident, which I've looked at many different websites where they explain this introduction, and that little quote is not there. Basically, Prabhupada was getting everybody, all of his disciples, to repeat after him. And it was a very grave Sanskrit recitation, like Namaste, Namaste, Narasimhaya, because this is the first time the devotees have heard these prayers. And Prabhupada was basically explaining that this was being introduced to protect the Krishna Consciousness movement and the preaching of the Krishna Consciousness movement. So at some point, when Prabhupada was explaining Jai Jagadisha Hare, some Indian lady in the crowd says, Om Jai Jagadisha Hare. And Prabhupada says, stop. He said, no, there's no Om here. It is simply Jai Jagadisha Hare. And Prabhupada had all devotees recite it again. So it is a very important point to follow Prabhupada as he teaches us how he wants to be followed. When people add new concoctions, new deviations, it creates problems. So we just want to follow Prabhupada the way that he required and wanted to be followed. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Go ahead, Vishwa.
Krishna Kata is with us. Are you by a microphone, Krishna Kata? Maybe you could mention about our GoFundMe campaign and the service that we've been rendering as a group. Your microphone's off? He's in a truck. Yeah. I guess it's not working.
I'm not in the best position to speak. I'm driving, so please call on someone else for safety. Thank you. I've been listening, and it's a wonderful class, as always. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Shama Sundar in Australia, the Samosa King. How are you, Prabhu? Are you at the ghee cooking the samosas? Can you come to the microphone? Shama Sundar makes 2,000 samosas a week, goes out to the marketplace and distributes some prasadam, and at the same time he's distributing books, and in this way preaching and making an effort. Dasa Avatar, how are you, Prabhu, in your brahmachari clothes? Any comments you'd like to make today, please? You're smiling. Microphone?
Okay, can you hear me?
Oh,
yes, we can. You're in Australia as well, aren't you?
Yes, yes. I'm in Adelaide, and it's freezing here.
Freezing?
No. I just wanted to say,
yes, Prabhu, please.
Big pranams to everyone, all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, and to yourself and Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. I was just thinking, very, very lovely class. A couple of points you mentioned, that as long as you follow Prabhupada, you're connected. And following Prabhupada means following as he taught us how to follow.
Yes.
Not to deviate, make something up. Yeah. I mean, it's not so hard. We talk about bhakti, about devotion. And as far as devotion goes, really, what can we do? Simple: chanting, reading, following the principles. These things you mentioned, Vishwakarma Prabhu. Chanting, reading, following the principles. That in itself is devotional service. It's not hard. And offering prasad. That's not hard. So it doesn't have to be an elaborate setup. I've got such a simple setup back at my place. But simply, dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept this offering on behalf of you may just have a picture of Krishna, you know, on behalf of Radha Govinda Ji, whatever you want to call, like that. It's a question of love, not great, huge standard. So no, I really appreciate these classes and these brahmachari clothes, by the way. I'm a furniture removalist. We dress in this high vis. Yes, it's about being standing out in the transport industry. Just so that you don't get ran over.
Okay.
We wear the fluorescent clothing. Yes, it does look very brahmachari-like, doesn't it? Yes.
Looks good. Thank you. Very nice. And thank you very much for your participation with us. I know you're busy running a moving company, and it's great to have you with us and be a part of this assembly. Anandabhaya, how are you, Mataji, in somewhere in North Carolina? Prabhupada Village, they call it. Maybe you could share some of your realizations with us today on the class and anything else that's on your mind.
Thank you, Prabhu. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I was. I'd written a message in the chat to Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, asking all of these, because he was talking about the Ramanuja Sampradaya, and I was asking, are these mainly only taking Ritvik initiation, all of these millions of people, and devotees? And he said, yes, all Sampradaya and Jesus Christ also use the Ritvik ceremony system for initiation. And I'd say that's millions and millions of devotees across India. So when somebody tells you that there is no precedence for this, you can tell them about that. That stops them. They don't really have anything much to say after that. Thank you, Yaśodā.
Go ahead, Yaśodā. There's a question too, Prabhu, from Mario Panada. Maybe you could answer that on the chat if you can see it. What would you say is the most important reason why Srila Prabhupada ordered everyone should follow the example of Jayananda?
Because he had an amazing attitude of service and surrender and devotion. He was what we consider the perfect disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Jayananda never complained, was never trying to promote himself. He has zero desire for self-promotional, self-aggrandizement. His whole point was just to render service to Srila Prabhupada and the mission of Srila Prabhupada. And he was quite exemplary the way that he was helping devotees. I mean, in 1970, for a few months, I became the temporary president of the Berkeley Temple, late 70s, 71, early 71. And I had to work with Jayananda and Bhutatma and Keshava. And Jayananda was such an amazing person because he was trying to bring everybody to Prabhupada. It was like he was amazing because of his attitude, and it was very contagious. The way that Jayananda would behave with devotees was contagious. Everybody wanted to be with Jayananda, to assist Jayananda, because he had no false ego. He had no false ego or desire for what we keep referring many times. Profit, adoration, and distinction did not reside in Jayananda's heart. It just wasn't there. Coming back to the topic with that Mataji, by the way, it's not Ananda Bahya, it's Anda Bahya. That's the name of Radharani, just a point of record. What I wrote to you in the chat there, it comes from a letter from a Swami in the Ramanuja Sampradaya that was making an analysis of the Ritvik letter written by Srila Prabhupada on July 9th. And his analysis is in our Sampradaya, although they don't call it Ritvik, everybody considers themselves Ramanuja Dāsa, or a servant and follower and disciple of Ramanuja. Although they have their own acharyas and these different mats and everything, that do give the initiation, whatever. But the mindset is to promote Ramanuja and his teachings. This is the mindset that we should adopt. Everybody is familiar with that letter from Prabhupada to Kirtananda in 1967. Prabhupada said that we should follow the example of the Ramakrishna mission, where they keep the Acharya, everybody should keep the Acharya in the center. And Prabhupada said, as an institution, they've done very well for doing that. So, and as far as the principle of what they call apurvatva, or unprecedented nature, well, the very nature of Prabhupada coming on the boat was unprecedented. The nature of Prabhupada coming to New York and having men and women eventually live together in the same building, that was criticized by his godbrother. That was unprecedented. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who had his disciples living in marble palaces and riding motor car, whatever, that was unprecedented. There's a lot of unprecedented activities. Prabhupada, as a sannyasi, engaged in marrying his disciples. Well, in India, sannyasis don't do that. But he did that to promote the Krishna consciousness movement. You know, there is a letter when some of you must notice, Saradiya and Vaikuntanath, where I see that Mahatma wrote, there is a lot of information about Jayananda Thakur, the beautiful life of Jayananda. Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention, Mahatma Prabhu. Very nice. So the point that I'm trying to say is there is a lot of information that has been presented, misleading devotees, claiming that there is no evidence of somebody accepting a departed guru. Well, how did Vishwanath Chakravarti accept Narottam Das Thakur as his guru, since they were never on the planet at the same time? How did that work? What does Prabhupada mean when he says in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta that Jagannath Das Babaji initiated Bhaktivedanta Thakur? In other words, there has to be a reevaluation. People have to reset the button of their pious belief and their pious understanding and go back to the root of Prabhupada's statements, all the statements, not cherry picking, not choosing the statements they like and discarding so many other statements. What is the meaning of initiate, initiation, initiated? There's a letter Prabhupada wrote. Many devotees are familiar with this, and I know Mahatma knows that, where Prabhupada said that to be members of the Sampradaya doesn't mean you have to be officially initiated. It means to accept the disciplic conclusion. Now, the point is, do they accept the eternal presence of Srila Prabhupada in his Vani? But they're too busy trying to promote their Vapu over Prabhupada's Vapu and Vani. That is why they do not understand. They don't study properly. They don't read properly. They don't read thoroughly, and they come up with all kinds of foolish ideas. Hare Krishna.
Well, it's a very simple thing to understand. Why do people who read something misinterpret it instead of explaining their actual understanding of what is being said? Why do they do that? Prabhupada gives a couple of examples. One is, first of all, they don't have the capacity to understand it. It's not in their character. In other words, the character is polluted with personal ambition based on false ego. When you have this false ego working in your psyche or in your character, then everything that you do is based on your own narcissistic point of view. Oh, I'm doing this, but I'm doing it because really I want more money. Really, I want more prestige. Really, I want to be famous. It's like when I used to go play in clubs and private events. It was interesting to know we played for wealthy people, but most of these wealthy people were so enamored with the musicians that were playing for them that they would come forward and go, oh, I've got a Telecaster, I've got a Stratocaster, I play drums, we have a private band. Everybody wants to be a rock star. That's the way it is. Trust me, I've had that experience thousands of times where people are so, even though they're not They could be doctors or lawyers or whatever field of expertise they're in. They're still thinking, oh, I want to be famous. I want to be a rock star. This is what's going on in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. People want to imitate Srila Prabhupada and the way he was honored and respected by his disciples. And they get infatuated when people come forward and say, oh, will you be my guru? It's a temptation that they can't resist. It's a disease. I know that one of our godbrothers had that. You become contaminated by worship. It's like everybody knows that sometimes, even in the material world, when you get recognition, when you get glory, and you have no humility, that's the first step down to degradation. You fall apart. Pride before the, what is it? What is it? Pride before death, or
Pride before the fall.
Pride before the fall, excuse me. So this type of thing goes on in the spiritual circles that we're in, and also in material circles. And we should be very objective, everyone. Very objective at looking at it. Don't be angry. Some people will think we're angry. Oh, you're so upset. Yeah, we're upset with the distortion of the philosophy by certain individuals for their personal success, not for the spiritual success of Prabhupada's mission. Dasa Avatar, let me say this to you. Can you imagine how successful this movement would be if everyone had stayed focused on Prabhupada from 1977, him as the guru, initiating guru, and all of us as his servants, and we all work cooperatively to spread the mission of Lord Chaitanya? How successful would this movement truly be?
Oh, Prabhu, it would be massive. ISKCON would be massive.
But here we have all these different sects, all these different groups, all these different gurus, all these private bank accounts, all these private projects. For example, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, I might have sent you this picture of this small temple. There's a temple in Atlanta being run by one of our godbrothers. And one of our other godbrothers, who used to be in New Vrindavan, he mentions in the chat, all glories to Krishna life. Krishna life. Well, that's a new one. I haven't heard that one before. I've heard the ISKCON name and this and that. But here we have, and this particular person that's heading it up had said, we might as well divide the movement up into different sections now, because that's the way it is. That the movement, all the corporations are privately owned. And this particular temple in Atlanta, Krishna Life, has nothing to do with the ISKCON name, for fear of multiple reasons. I don't want to discuss them right now. But here, in real time, Prabhus, is the actual reality of this society now in its sectarian, cultish way. And this, unfortunately, is how the movement is going to stay until some people have some contrition, some capacity to renounce their particular positions in their vyasasans, in their temples, in their books, and their missions, and come together under the mission of Srila Prabhupada and his unadulterated books, which we're doing in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, let's have our friend in Miami. I see his hand appeared. Maybe he'll be in the car. Nilesh Dalal.
Hare Krishna.
Are you in the
Hare
car?
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
I predicted it.
Likewise.
He's in the
Hare
car.
Krishna.
Haribol.
Sorry. I'm
That's
just
okay. I'm
returning
just
from,
joking. I'm just joking.
Narasimhadev festivities. So it's interesting that we are talking about all this. I was just reading Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text 33, where
Yes.
Prabhupada talks about truth. Truth is eternal. Truth is never going to be subdued. In fact, if you look at the emblem of India, it says Satyameva Jayate. The truth shall always prevail. You know, any by any is not going to last long. Just like how the original 1972 version of the Bhagavad Gita was suppressed in the 80s and the 90s, and then suddenly there is a resurgence of that. The truth shall always prevail. Now, why the movement went through this, all this dissipation? Well, this may be also Krishna's plan, because Krishna is still in charge. Maya dakshena
Yes.
prakriti suyate sacharacharam.
Yes.
Maybe some souls who have what you call duped him, and now it is his turn to dupe them. So in all this, why are some of us so blessed to be in association with the pure message of Srila Prabhupada? Because if you go for that any adulterated version, because remember, if I want to project myself as an erudite scholar, as Prabhupada says,
Yes.
or as a mundane scholar, I want to prove that I am better than Srila Prabhupada. So I am going to make things better in his books than what it is. Because according to me, I think Prabhupada was wrong here. This is my material affliction. We got to understand that if you want to follow bhakti, you have to follow what Krishna tells you. Tat vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Until and unless you don't do that, you don't serve him, you do not surrender to him. And when you say surrender means even accepting whatever grammatical mistakes there may be there. That is, you're accepting it the way it is. And Prabhupada has told us that whatever he has left for us, it is enough for us to go back home, back to Godhead. Now, the question is whether you want to listen to it or you don't want to listen to it. If you want to follow some people who project themselves as erudite scholars because they speak so well, because somebody who's following Srila Prabhupada very diligently, he does not speak so well. He's such a meek person. He's such a, he's like a blade of grass, when actually you should be like that, because humility is a part of the pure devotee. And if you are following somebody because you're following your senses, oh, he projects himself so well, oh, he talks himself so well, you're losing yourself in the wanderings of this material world. We need to be very careful about it. So truth is eternal. No matter what you do to suppress it, it's never going to be suppressed. Today it is you, today it is Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu who are promulgating it. Tomorrow there will be somebody else. Krishna is still in charge. Those who are sincere souls will get this message, but they have to be sincere souls, otherwise they're not going to get this message. And of course, we know from Bhagavad Gita again, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye. Out of millions and thousands of people, there are only few who are looking for this particular truth.
Yes.
So, yes, we may be small in number, but we need to follow the pure message. And those who are sincere will join us. Those who are not will fall apart. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, and thank you very much. Of course, we do look at this as a wonderful team of devotees, and with all of us with the same focus and purpose. And I wanted to ask our godbrother, I see he's back on the screen, sort of, Jonas Priya in Hawaii. Maybe he could, because he had personal association with Jayananda during his departure, that he could share some of those pastimes with us before we end up the program this evening. Jonas Priya in Hawaii.
Hare Krishna, glorious Srila Prabhupada. Thanks for holding this amazing discussions. Yeah, little Jayananda story, Ratra Yatra 76.
Yes.
They're loading the deities So those deities are very heavy. It takes 3 people to move them. Jayananda is extremely sick. He's close to leaving his body. But a symptom of a pure devotee like Jayananda and Prabhupada, they could work even if their body is falling apart. So somehow the one devotee that was holding the other side of the deity, she tripped or something, and Jayananda had to bear the weight of this deity, and he did it with no effort. So that's like a miracle. It's like unexplainable that he could do that. And he was almost getting ready to leave his body, and he was always so humble. I remember the first time I met him, I met his boots before. He was under a car. He spent a lot of time, he was a mechanic of the temple, like Vishwa Karma was saying they had a temple mechanic. So during the Valencia temple times, he was a mechanic, and that's how I met him. And he never complained about having to talk to women or girls, because he was so advanced that he will take anybody. A lot of these devotees, brahmacharis, they run away and they have to face a woman. But Jayananda, he only saw the spirit. He didn't see the body. Why? Because he was a pure devotee. He was advanced. And those are symptoms of somebody that is very, very advanced. And even to the last days when I was hanging out with him in San Diego, he was trying to figure out how to make money to print books in his very last days. And he was telling me, because I used to buy and sell cars in San Diego, and he said, oh, maybe you could show me, because I want to make some money to print books. The guy's getting ready to die, and he's trying, how could he get money to print Prabhupada's books? This is the mentality of a pure devotee. Hare Krishna.
Glories to
Hare Krishna,
Jayananda
Prabhuji.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can I?
Yeah.
Go ahead. We're just ending up the program. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Responding to Janice Priya Prabhuji's this pastime about Jayananda Prabhu, is that, remember, Krishna has the ability to be heavier than the heaviest and lighter than the lightest.
Yes.
So imagine the deity becoming light for Jayananda Prabhu, so he could lift the deities. See, we forget this part. It is not unexplainable. It is completely explainable. Krishna will become the heavier than the heaviest for people like me who is conditioned, but he'll become the lighter than the lightest for Jayananda Prabhu, so that he can lift him up very easily. And this is what we got to learn, is that if we were on our deathbeds, what will be our thought process? While Jayananda's Prabhu is so surrendered that he's thinking of only how to please a spiritual master, which Prabhupada always told us, is that always print books, because that is what Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj instructed to him. So what is going to be on our minds in our deathbeds? This is what we should be reflecting on. Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you. That's a wonderful connection of philosophy for all of us. And especially in our campaign now, our GoFundMe campaign to reprint the Srimad Bhagavatams that Prabhupada brought on the boat, the Jaladuta, to America in 1965. And we saw today in the class how Prabhupada was diligent in marking and taking care of all the money that he was collecting from book sales and other donations, and continually reinvesting it in Krishna service. So this GoFundMe campaign is still on, everyone. And you still have a chance if you go to the link. Venkat Bhatta Prabhu, could you put up the link for us for 1 second? I missed, is it possible? At any rate, you can go online to Prabhupada Disciples Association group page, and there'll be a link there. Or if you want it sent to you, here we have it there it is there. There's the GoFund. It's in the chat box there. So if you click on it, you'll be able to see the presentation. You'll be able to read all the names of the wonderful 83 people so far that have donated and will be, there it is there. Look, we've got to $24,751 US. And in the last little while, I'm noticing, Vijaya Pandit, there's quite a few people donating from Italy. So we want to thank all those people. Make sure you go ahead. There's 86 people he sees. Am I missing something here? 86 people, 87 donations. So someone gave something 58 minutes ago. But at any rate, the point is this, it's still on, because the reprinting of these books, as Nilesh Sharma brought up to us, was really the essence of the completion of our work up to this point, which was to add this in to our, we've been preaching about using the unedited books for the last so many years, and Yaśodā diligently for the last 40 years. And now we're in the position where we're moving ahead to do it. Yes, we're moving ahead to print and publish Prabhupada's original books, and we want your donations for that purpose. It is a registered charity in America, and it is being carefully monitored by its members to protect the Lakshmi, specifically for book distribution, book printing only. That's our main focus. And in this way, we know that we're getting the interest of Krishna. Do not try to act in such a way to see Krishna, but all of us together acting to please Srila Prabhupada by the reprinting of his original 62, 64, 65 Bhagavatams and Dasa Avatar. Not only the reprinting, but the distribution of these books, Anandabhaya, is the real mission that we're undertaking as we march forward in time to our final breaths on this planet. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and the Sankirtan mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Let's move forward with a wonderful kirtan from Srila Prabhupada, hopefully playing his bongo in Tompkins Square back in '66. And then we'll have the prayers and the end of the show. Haribol. Perfect.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees of the Lord on this most auspicious day of Narasimha Chaturdasi. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who can fulfill the desires of everyone just like desire trees and are full of compassion for the fallen souls. I see that we've got a last-minute message from somebody saying that there's some lady that is doing some kind of preaching on the internet or something. I don't know if it shows. So there's a mother and daughter on YouTube that are doing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam studies. I've invited them to these meetings several times by leaving comment on their videos. Anyone on YouTube, please help invite them. The path to Dharma. So somebody, maybe Venkat or somebody, can invite them and see what we can do. Thanks everybody for participating. We greatly appreciate your association. We hope to see you all on Saturday morning from Srimad Bhagavad Gita reading and the wonderful commentaries of Srila Prabhupada and his bona fide followers. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol.
Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnava Vangsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathannitam Tang Sajivam Sadaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Caitanya